Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Insights. I'm your host, Antonio, and today we're going to shine a spotlight on research that is not just insightful, but it's also deeply impactful. I'm joined today by Beth Bleathman, winner of the Best Social Impact Research Award for the powerful community-focused project Listening, Learning, and Acting. This project was created in partnership with ASDA and the ASDA Foundation, and the ongoing research program gives a real voice to grassroots organizations, community champions, and everyday people across the UK. Since 2022, the Community Insights Tracker has been uncovering how people connect with their local spaces, what support they need, and how can brands meaningfully strengthen the communities they serve. Today, Beth takes us behind the scenes of the project, from balancing perspectives across multiple audiences to developing the togetherness metric to seeing real-world impacts through initiatives like the Young Future Grants. And finally, we're going to also explore a bit of the listening, learning, acting framework and how could inspire brands everywhere to build deeper trust, connection, but also social value. Now, without further ado, here's Beth to tell us all about this project. Welcome, Beth. Welcome to Talking Insights, and thanks for being here. And first and foremost, congrats on your award, Best Social Impact Research, with the project Listening, Learning, Acting. I was reading a bit about the project, and there's a line that I found it very interesting because it goes something like, as it's not just a local supermarket, it plays a significant role within communities in supporting local causes. I got a sense that this is what kind of sparked on you to create this project, but I want to hear from you. What can you tell me about the project? What was the spark that created that for you to create this project? And yeah, tell me everything about it.
Sure, yeah. So the Community Insight Tracker research program has been running since March 2022. So we're about to enter its fourth year. When the idea first came to be, the thought process was that ASDA and the ASDA Foundation wanted to give that voice to sort of grassroots organisations and local people across the UK in order to really lean into being that supermarket that plays a significant role in supporting local communities and causes that are important to its customers. And so to do this, we needed to build an understanding of what customers' experiences with their communities are like. So how they come to connect with them, how they build relationships with their local spaces, what kind of support that they want ASDA and the foundation to give so that ASDA could take that away and then they were well equipped to sort of tackle issues and implement support where most impactful. And then also have that data to back up their decisions. So in terms of like who we speak to, so we gather a nationally representative group of people across the UK to understand what they want for their local areas. And then we also speak to ASDA's community champions. So these are the people at ground level and they connect ASDA to their communities. And then we also speak to grant recipients as well to get the opinions from those who benefit from the support that ASDA and the ASDA Foundation provide. So each time we get this really nice holistic view from the everyday consumer to the champions bridging that gap between customer and community, and also representatives from the groups that ASDA is supporting. In terms of the sort of general running of the project, so we do 4 surveys a year, so once a quarter, and the survey covers questions about community connection. And then we'll also look at more sort of current relevant topics as well. So for example, if there's like a big sports event, we might look into how that could be impacting communities at the time. And then with this insight, we can sort of spot trends, what's changing, what do customers want to get that really nice, rich insight, which then gives ASDA and the ASDA Foundation a kind of view of community needs across the country so they can kind of make their decisions rooted in that real world experience.
You were mentioning the difference in the multiple audiences and the multiple people that you interviewed and that you collaborated with for the project. What were some challengings on working with all these people, on balancing all these different perspectives? And also, I think in this project it's also important to understand that everyone can, and it's could be difficult to ensure that everyone has a voice and that the voice and what they want to say, it's truly heard. What were some of the challenges behind all of this?
Yeah, so with the three different audiences, like naturally, it's three very different groups of people who have different experiences and therefore obviously they have their different opinions. So the way we typically approach this is to first understand what actually links them together. So what are they aligning on? For example, throughout the year, we might notice that the cost of living is a key societal issue for all three of these groups, or we might notice that for all three groups, antisocial behaviour is on their radar as a rising concern in their communities. So if everyone is recognizing this, we know that that is really important to call out in our analysis as an opportunity for ASDA and the foundation to support, as there's a clear sort of issue that's coming through and all the most important voices are raising. But where the challenge comes in is sort of noting those nuances between their opinions. So maybe the ASDA community champions feel that crime in communities is where focus should be placed, but maybe for the general consumer, they feel community support for specific groups is most important. And the way we kind of tackle that really is just as simple as transparency. So each way, if we want to make sure that we're sort of drawing attention to the similarities, but also those key differences, just to make sure that ASDA have all the information that they need about what's important to each individual group. Therefore, they can sort of take that insight away and tailor their approach to ensure that everyone is listened to and communicated with effectively. And again, I think it's that sort of that consistent connection of these groups that ASDA are doing really well at. So, we speak to customers who consistently recognise ASDA as doing well at connecting with their communities, the community champions who constantly show up for their communities, and then the grant recipients as well, who kind of give their own positive testimonies about the support that ASDA has given them. Yeah, to sum up my answer as succinctly as possible, it's that transparency that does help give a voice to everyone.
Yeah, when I was reading the description of the project, there's something called the togetherness metric. I found that fascinating, and where you measured how people felt locally, personally, but also nationally. And this project and togetherness and the sense of community, it's something that I think kind of goes hand in hand. Can you explain to me how this metric came about, and how do you feel about the state of community and connection on the UK specifically, because the project was there?
Yeah, so there's been sort of a few iterations of it as we've moved through the years with the project, and that sort of that togetherness idea is sort of the crux of it is that community connection. And so sort of at the start it was understanding how frequently people are getting involved in their communities, how they're making connections to the different people and the different spaces that they can sort of exist in within their communities. And then throughout we've sort of tailored that to sort of dig a bit deeper into what creates these connections and what upholds them. And what I find really interesting actually working on the community tracker is, although it is a quantitative survey, we do actually get some incredibly powerful feedback from respondents through the sort of open-ended questions that we ask, particularly sort of wave to wave when we cover more topical things like maybe how school holidays impact communities or Christmas, all manner of things. And one thing we've sort of noticed and is a regular theme in our analysis is the importance of community connection. I mean, in recent years in particular, I'm sure for everyone a big topic of conversation has sort of been the rising cost of living. And it has really left people feeling quite uncertain about their future, not only for them, but the sort of more vulnerable people in society as well. Like those who are perhaps surviving on less, or who maybe don't have a home or a decent support network. So that kind of uncertainty has made so many of us retreat a little and kind of lose that community connection. And so now what we're hearing is people start to recognise how important our local support systems are. They really want those key community spaces to be easily accessible and available to them, like your libraries and community halls, parks. They're all so important, sort of upholding that community connection. And then conversely, while many of us have become less engaged with our communities, we notice that when there's something to bring us all together, the big sports events I mentioned earlier, like the Olympics, for example, when we speak to people while these events are happening, we can really see how important these community spaces are. Like hearing these kind of experiences and stories is something I feel really privileged to work on. sort of look forward to it every time. I mean, any researcher, we just want to know how people work. We want to know what makes them tick to kind of get in some way connect people through their stories is it's really good to work on.
And I want to talk about the impact because there's a real tangible impact, as you were saying, like the things that you can always see in the communities, the impacts from the sports events, from all of that, that sense of community. What kind of qualitative impact have you seen in the communities themselves? Do you have an example, an interesting story that you could and would like to share?
So, yeah, so the partnership has sort of meant that ASDA and the ASDA Foundation can really actively listen to community voices and sort of just as an example of how the project has done that. So, over time, we really noticed that young people were seen as a sort of priority group by many and a group that people at all the three audiences we spoke to really saw benefit in supporting. So off the back of that, ASDA was able to launch a themed grant, this being Young Futures. So through this, they had lots of applications from different causes, and they've been able to allocate I think it was £500,000 to different projects that support young people's well-being. So from aspects like education, safety, mentorship, and this is extended sort of across multiple groups in need of support. So yeah, it just sort of speaks to the benefit that this partnership has, as to sort of being able to consistently see where help is needed and act accordingly.
Do you feel like this framework and the project could be either scaled or adapt beyond ASDA and to a more global scale or to any other supermarkets, communities, whatever it is? But do you feel like this framework can be used on some other places?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the concept of listening, learning, acting, feels like a framework that can be really transformative for brands who are truly interested and want to engage with their audience. But kind of giving back and supporting is a key goal. I mean, if we break it down, like listening, everyone wants to be listened to. We all want that platform to make that happen. And it's such sort of a simple thing, but I think really effective to make it known to customers that you're open to what they've got to say. And then with the learning aspect, super important to take on those opinions, and really understand what customers want and need and what brands can do to meet these expectations, um, and how that can kind of support future developments as well. And then acting, again, really instrumental for brands of that being responsive and acting on their learnings and sort of actively proving to people that brand and consumer can align. And as much as brands are serving their customers, customers also have something really valuable that they can give to brands as well in sharing their opinions, and sort of acting on those, I think, can only strengthen a relationship between brand and consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. One final question. This project it kind of required a collaboration between both the most corporate sides, the foundation part, but also the research teams. We have a bunch of people listening that are either starting new projects that are fresh out of college or are like CEOs, and sometimes they're just stuck doing the same projects again and again. Do you have any advice for these people, and not only on how to tackle these issues, but also like on how to create projects that also have some impact and some real positive impact in the communities around them?
I think the real important thing is simply just listening. It is that the crux of everything is just hearing out what people have to say. I think what's been really transformative for ASDA, and so this partnership between ourselves at Research Bods and ASDA, is that sort of, as I mentioned earlier, that transparency and just hearing what people have to say. And yeah, that kind of moving for ASDA, that moving towards decision making that is based on the kind of real current needs of people that they're serving rather than guesswork is really important. So I think, yes, utilizing insights in decision making, it means that you can move beyond assumption and ensure any kind of support is sort of both timely and targeted. And I think that's what is so impactful and transformative about this project, is that it does allow ASDA to hear from real life experience and act on that.
It's definitely a very inspiring and very interesting project. I was moved with everything that you accomplished with it, and I hope it serves as some kind of inspiration for anyone that's listening. Beth, thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you so much for the project. Congratulations on the awards. And yeah, we hope to hear back from you and hear more from the project that you're creating. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. It's been great to chat through the project.
And that's all for today, folks. Talking Insights is a production of Research World and Esomar, bringing you the stories, voices, and ideas shaping the insights community around the world. If you'd like to be featured in a future episode, share your story, or learn more about sponsoring opportunities, send us an email at podcast@esomar.org. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And join us next week for another great conversation. See you.